Good morning. We're on day 120 of Ukraine's resistance. This is Media Center Ukraine. My name is Vasyl. We're starting our briefing with Vasyl Bodnar, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ukraine to Turkey. And this briefing will bring us many interesting news. Pan Vasylu, good morning. Good morning. As to Vasyl's, should bring good luck and should bring our victory closer. Let's hope. The first question is a very important one. Yesterday's information about supposedly an arrangement, an agreement of the removal of Ukrainian grain from ports. There was some talk about the first Turkish ship leaving Mariupol. What's the no, no, no. That has nothing to do with that, with our grain leaving our ports. What's happening is there are talks to convince the Russian side to join four-part arrangements about the UN plan about unblocking Ukrainian ports. This ship that was in the port of Mariupol um, was held by the occupiers after Mariupol was occupied, and it was now liberated yesterday. It has left the Mariupol port and is going out to sea. This is one of 21 ships that were in Ukrainian ports as the war began. So there is no this isn't any significant news in that sense. We're working on unblocking ports and free other ships in Ukrainian ports, letting them go to their home ports or to other to their owners. So don't read Soviet newspapers in the morning. The Russian propaganda is very active. They're twisting every event that's happening, and they're trying to uh, bring discord into the relationship between Ukraine and Turkey. Unfortunately, in our media space, I don't really understand. We still have Russian narratives coming in and then clarifying, oh, that's not actually what happened, or it's not the full truth. I encourage all the media working with such resources to first talk to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Turkish side, and then maybe compare that information to the reality that exists, not what is being shown by the Russian side. Unfortunately, this news, this was the story yesterday. So thank you for this information, for this clarification. The next question is: there have been stories about this four-part meeting with Ukraine, Turkey, UN, and Russia. Could you tell us more about that? Look, this has been our initiative. We offered the UN um, ideas to unblock Ukraine's ports in order to remove the Russian side from any attempts to try to control our territorial waters and attempts to block passage of commercial ships to Ukrainian ports. This plan has been agreed with us in the UN and is supported by the Turkish side. Right now, the Turkish side is involved in the UN to try and convince the Russians to accept this plan as a basic idea and then hold four-sided talks in Istanbul. The basic idea was next week, and the plan hasn't been taken off the table. But my communication with the UN here says that most likely, as usual, Russians are manipulating and trying to uh, mess with this plan in order to mess with our interests. So this is an attempt to control these ships somehow by the Russian side. Unfortunately, this is unacceptable either for the UN or for us. Whether that's a good story, whether it's a good story in the sense that we have preserved our sovereignty and stopped Russia from dominating in the region, and the Turkish side understands this really well. One of the main elements of yesterday's visit of the military delegation was to move towards the UN plan, which involves international control on the passage of these ships, with the Ukrainian side giving the Ukrainian side the right to remove these ships from their territorial waters, with accompanied by the ships of the emergency ministry. Could you tell us more about the motivations and interests of Turkey? Because Turkey seems to be playing their own game, uh, trying to become, if not a world leader, then certainly a regional leader. They have their own story with NATO, they have their own story with Syria. And in all these stories, where is Ukraine? Okay, so first of all, let us look at the theoretical basis of this stance. It was stated publicly in Erdogan's book, which said that the world ought to be more just. The basic idea was that the world is not just the five members of the UN Security Council. I basically agree with this approach because today's Security Council system and the UN system is very imperfect. It has not managed to forestall Russia's aggression against Ukraine. It hasn't managed to fight this aggression, and it hasn't stopped Russia's actions either in Georgia or in Moldova. This tells me that we're standing on the threshold of radical changes in the system of security, and Turkey is pushing this idea of this away from unipolarity or bipolarity to multipolarity. So to have every region should have its leaders that could take on responsibility and help security concerns and fight the challenges that arise in the region. Turkey is trying to play this game. Of course, they have a lot of potential, enough potential to um, to support this position and talk of certain regional leadership ambitions. Of course, they're not succeeding in everything. Of course, partly because of the resistance of Russia and many other countries who don't particularly want the strengthening of this regional leadership. Ukraine, in this context, is seen as an extremely positive partner and even ally. This has to do not only with our ambitions in terms of Euro-Atlantic integration, this has to do with our potential technological potential and scholarly scientific potential, our readiness to cooperate. We also have, by the way, we have some limits in cooperation with other partners and other markets. And so the combination of our technological and scientific potential and Turkish financial and productive potential is very promising. You know that prior to the war, we had this defense industries cooperation with Turkey, and the principle that we have this principle of Akinci when um, the Turkish the Turkish Turkish planes with our engines. So we're talking from a we have similar interests. The only problem is the Turkish interaction with Russia. There were always kind of parallel tracks, but right now this is seen as very sensitive in the Ukrainian society, and we're trying to explain in our society that things are not as bad as they may appear from Russian media, which unfortunately some of our media quote. But again, not everything is as smooth as we would like, and this is part of this dialogue with Turkey, in an attempt to gain reassurances that the Turkey is not changing their stance, but remains on a pro-Ukrainian balanced position that help us also defend our independence in our fight against Russia. As far as NATO is concerned, Turkey has been trying to enter NATO since the early 1950s. This is a basic element of their security, and in spite of all the turbulences and difficulties, this is not really doubted. On the other hand, back in the day, Turkey allowed Greece to become a member of NATO without any additional conditions. Although even then they already had conflict. And so what's happening now in the Aegean Sea, um, Ankara believes that this is against the interests of Turkey and a violation of international agreements from the 20s and 30s. So this militarization of the islands and creation of this creates a certain threat for Turkey, or a threat for the stability in the Aegean Sea. And additionally, Syria is of course a problem that has been going on since 2012, 2013. Here, Turkey's interest is to ensure the security of the southern regions from the Kurdish YPG PKK formations that Turkey believes to be terrorist organizations. In actual fact, these detachments are supported by the US and Russia. They have been used as kind of field armies for the fighting ISIS, for fighting ISIS troops and units, and so far they retain their autonomy, both from the Assad regime and the regional powers that exist in the region. So this is also one of the elements of Turkey's strategy in forestalling the kind of radical Kurdish movements and removing their influence on the south of Turkey, because you know that these are the regions that are populated by the Kurds, and this is also a significant security issue for Turkey. Understood. Tomorrow, Ukraine is most likely to get its candidacy for EU members. At the same time, EU is now saying that Turkey is now further from the EU than it was in 1999. Is there a danger that Russia will attempt to use this in order to uh, kind of create informational warfare between Ukraine and Turkey. No, I don't think so. I think Turkey understand what reasons are in its way of their cooperation with the EU. The EU integration track is not diminishing in intensity. The programs that have been put in place are continuing to be implemented. The EU is helping Turkey with training and teaching refugees. There's many educational programs. Tens, possibly hundreds of Turkish students are in European universities with European educations. EU is a key economic partner. As you know, this is the only structure with whom they have a customs union. So, oh, yes, they don't have the the non-visa regime at the moment. Yes, they have a certain they have some problems with the Cyprus Cyprus and France, because there's an Armenian lobby in France. But the parallels, there aren't really parallels. There aren't really resentments or attempts to use this topic against uh, us. On the contrary, those who are looking at the prospects of the EU expansion, they see this as a chance to reload the relationships between the EU and Turkey. Um, the opposition is also quite positive about this. They're prepared to activate their Euro integration course. We we shouldn't really see Turkey as Turkey cannot function in the same way that the EU functions. We see what the attempts to establish democracy in Iraq led to. Although Turkey is the easternmost part of the Western society, so to speak, starting from their education system and to their social relations, these are most of the elements of a Western society, but still some traditional things remain, from religion to certain family relations and other and society, that have to be taken into account, and without trying to impose kind of more classically European. Yes, this is all presented as human rights violations, and of course those problems exist. But we have to understand the peculiarities and the regional peculiarities, and also internal mental peculiarities, in order to have the best cooperation. I think we have a better understanding of Turkey than some EU functionaries, and so we're trying to build our dialogue, a pragmatic dialogue and mutual support, rather than criticism and imposition. I think this will bring better results than simply trying to um, multiply the negativity that is not really that overwhelming. And another, perhaps somewhat unexpected question: Ukraine, as you know, we have a true Bayraktar mania. Recently, the volunteer Serhiy Pritula announced the funds collection for the purchase of 3 Bayraktari, and has now collected enough money for 2 of them. How much is this story known to Turkey? Oh, it's been known since the first post, because the questions that have to do either with national security or with the production of Bayraktar are watched very closely. I got this information from the Pritula Foundation, because our colleagues communicate with his foundation. Of course, all of this has to go through the Ministry of Defense, because the Ministry of Defense is the places the order and works with the Bayraktar company. But of course, it's a very powerful signal of the fact, the extent to which the Ukrainian society understands the significance of these drones, and how powerful the the mobilization potential of the name Bayraktar itself. You know that prior to the war, on February 3rd, we signed a special agreement on the creation of Bayraktar capacities in Ukraine, production capacities in Ukraine, and so we're working on this, and we want to make sure that it wasn't just Turkish Bayraktars coming in and helping us, but to have actually Ukrainian production, that we can say we have our own production of Bayraktari that can fight the aggressor and help us defend our nation. God willing, thank you very much for this information, for these important news. With us was Vasyl Bodnar, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Republic of Turkey. At 12 o'clock, we'll be talking to his colleague in Lithuania, Mr. Petro Beshta. See you then.